Hello, my name is Esfina Rukato. In 2023, Zimbabwe hosted the 8th ordinary meeting of the African Diamond Producers Association. I spoke to the then Minister of Mines and Minerals of Sierra Leone, Honourable Musa Timothy Kabba, who shared his vision of Africa. He discusses how Africa should use its natural resources to develop the continent and its citizens and reposition the continent's role in global political and economic affairs. He also touches on the negative impacts of corruption on development. The Honorable Minister narrates his experience of civil war in his country and how he transitioned from being a child soldier to a political leader. His main message, especially to young people, is you should never limit yourself by your experiences. Take a listen to what Honorable Musa Timothy Kabba has to say.
I think it's a very great pleasure to be here today in Zimbabwe to participate in the eighth ordinary meeting of the Council of Ministers of Mines from member states of the Association of African Countries Producing Diamonds. It's a great occasion and it presents the opportunity for Africans to accentuate, um, the contribution of Africa to the world of law, which diamonds create, basically. And I think it is time for Africans to continue to pitch in very loudly for the purposefulness of Africa in global politics, global economics, and in every aspect of the global competition. Gone are those days when the footprint of colonialism, deprived Africa from thriving. Today, statistics show that Africa has some of the most viable population sector. That is to say, Africa has the world's youngest population, which is a very important component of continental development. And I think it is good that leaders are emerging who are focused on developing their people and promoting the interest of the African continent. I think um, beyond mining, generally, I think Africans must now be ready to take leadership in global issues. Today, we see how the Ukraine Russia conflict has taught the world a very stark lesson that if you don't, grow your own economies, if you don't aspire to be food sufficient, for instance, if you don't aspire to be a production nation, you will be left vulnerable to these external shocks. And I think African governments are making effort now to curb corruption in their individual countries. I think that is very important because corruption over the century, over the decades, has bedeviled Africa. I think Africa needs pragmatic leadership. Africa needs the energy that we have, especially as young people, to compete in this industrial revolution. And I call this the fifth industrial revolution. Africa was left behind in the first, second, third, and fourth industrial revolution. This time around, Africa must be ready and prepared to compete. And I think we have everything it takes in terms of natural resources. Countries like Congo, Sierra Leone, Guinea Conakry, Zimbabwe, South Africa, you name it. All these countries are rich in natural and mineral resources. They are equally rich in human capital. I think African leaders must also focus, like Zimbabwe has done over the years, in developing the human capital. Education is very important because it is going to enlighten our citizens to the realities of the world. See, my life example, I am coming from a very, very humble background. I joined government when I was only 32 years old. And when I was a teen, I experienced, in not so beautiful terms, the civil conflict that decimated, the Sierra Leoneans, that destroyed the infrastructure, the social, economic, and moral fabric of our society. At age 12, 13, I was conscripted into one of the warring factions that fought the Sierra Leonean conflict. And after the civil conflict, I went to school and I was able to achieve and attain, achieve the sort of education that made me Minister of Mines and Mineral Resources in my early 30s in my country. Having experienced the dastardly consequences of civil war, when I was made a public figure, first as Director General of my country's upstream petroleum sector, and a little under 3 years, I was made the Minister of Mines and Mineral Resources. I came with a mindset that feels that I am morally, I'm under a moral obligation to provide the sort of leadership that will provide resources for the people of our country to avert those circumstances, situations that culminated into the civil conflict that destroyed my nation. So corruption is not part of my vernacular. Wanting to develop every citizen is my aspiration because if anyone is left behind, there is a tendency for discontentment and there is a tendency for revolution. There's a tendency for rebellion. So that is why it is important that in the management of national endowment, it is done in a fashion that everybody benefits from the benefit of those resources. I see Zimbabwe has got its own share of the good and bad experiences of maladministration, of the maladministration of resources. I think the country has learned that lesson, and I can see that there is progress in the country. I can see that the people are gradually becoming happy people in the African continent. But generally, I think we Africans must also be united. You know, gone are the days when we should actually focus on the artificial borders that were created for us by our colonial masters. We should blur these borders and have national and international cooperation within the African continent to ensure that our resources benefit our people. Yeah, I think we have the greatest potential now to emerge as one of the world leading continents. A big population, a productive population, a country, a continent that is endowed with natural resources, human capital. Let us harness the sun to provide energy for Africans. Let us use and utilize our water bodies to provide hydroelectricity for Africa. When we have a complete clean energy revolution, our minds will be run on clean energy. We will be able to get resources to develop our countries in a way that we've never seen before. I think Africa should move away from the mentality of receiving aid, move to a commercial revolution where we will sit at the table and negotiate judiciously with our people's interest in mind on our natural resources. Because these resources are finite. They're going to end, they're going to be depleted one day. Let us ensure that the benefit from these resources are translated into sustainable development for our people. It is a pleasure to be here today in Zimbabwe, a country that is such a beautiful one in Victoria Falls. I've been privileged to see one of the seven wonders of God. This is beautiful. God has endowed you with so much. I think you must be grateful and you must work very hard to promote transparency, accountability in the management of these resources, and to be grateful to God Almighty for having placed you in this wonderful land of the African continent. I look forward to collaboration. I look forward to exchanges. I look forward to peer review. I look forward to seeing more Zimbabwean youth taking leadership in this country because the future is on the shoulders of young people. And we must make the perfect use of every opportunity that we're given as young people. You should not, you should never limit yourself by your experiences or where you're coming from. Your social, economic, and cultural extraction must not be a barrier to your aspiration. You can, yes, you can, attain whatever height you've set for yourself. Thank you. May God bless Sierra Leone and the people of Zimbabwe.
Words of wisdom from Honourable Timothy Kabba. Africa has everything it needs to be a global leader. For this to happen, it must have strong leadership, fight corruption, create peace and stability, and use its resources for its development. Till next time.